The USS Defiance drifted through the empty space between stars like a metal fish swimming in an endless black ocean. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge watching the stars through the main screen. His ship was humanity's first attempt at deep space exploration, sent to find new worlds and hopefully new friends among the stars. The Defiance looked rough compared to the sleek ships in science fiction movies. Its hull was thick steel plates welded together. Nuclear reactors hummed in the engine room. Missile tubes lined the sides like a shark's teeth. The ship was built for exploration but designed by humans who knew that space might not be friendly. Commander Lisa Hayes sat at the tactical station monitoring sensors. She was Jake's second in command and his best friend since military academy. Her fingers moved across the controls checking weapon systems out of habit. Even on a peaceful mission, humans stayed ready for war. 3 days out from their last supply depot, Lisa's sensors picked up something strange. Energy readings unlike anything they had seen before. The patterns were too organized to be natural, too complex to be random. "Captain, I'm reading artificial energy signatures bearing 27 Mark IV, Lisa reported. Distance approximately 50,000 kilometers and closing. Jake moved to stand behind her station. Ship, unknown design. The energy pattern is completely alien to our database. Jake felt his heart race. This was it. First contact with an alien species. Everything humanity had dreamed about and feared was about to happen. "All stop," he ordered. "Send a standard greeting transmission on all frequencies. Tell them we come in peace and want to talk." The alien ship appeared on their screen moments later. It was beautiful in a way that hurt to look at. Smooth curves of what looked like liquid metal flowing together. Energy fields sparkled around it like aurora lights. It was 3 times the size of the Defiance and clearly built by minds that thought differently than humans. Inside the alien ship, Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire studied the primitive vessel that had wandered into their territory. The Zephyrians had ruled this part of space for 10,000 years. They had encountered hundreds of species and cataloged them all. Some became trading partners. Others became subjects. A few had to be destroyed. This new ship looked laughably primitive. Crude metal construction, chemical rockets, projectile weapons. The beings inside seemed to be bipedal mammals barely out of their planet's gravity well. "Begin deep scan analysis," Vextar commanded his science officer. "I want to know everything about these creatures before we decide their fate." The Zephyrian scanners were incredibly advanced. They could analyze every atom of the human ship, read the thoughts of its crew, and predict their technological development for the next 1,000 years. The scan would take several minutes to complete, but when finished, they would know everything about humanity. Jake waited for a response to their peaceful message. Minutes ticked by in silence. Lisa kept monitoring the alien ship but saw no weapons being charged, no hostile movements. "They're scanning us," she reported. "Some kind of deep analysis beam. It's penetrating our hull and reading everything." "Let them look," Jake said. "We have nothing to hide. Maybe they're just being cautious like we would be." The scan results began flowing into the Zephyrian computers. At first, everything looked normal. Carbon-based life forms, average intelligence, technology level approximately 3,000 years behind Zephyrian standards. But then the deeper analysis began revealing disturbing patterns. The humans had built their exploration ship around weapon systems. Every component could be turned into a bomb if needed. The nuclear reactors were designed to overload and destroy everything within 100 kilometers. The crew carried personal weapons even on a peaceful mission. But the psychological scans were what made Admiral Vextar step back from the display in shock. These beings thought about violence the way his people thought about mathematics. It was natural to them. Automatic. They planned for war even while hoping for peace. The computer analyzed human history from the cultural data stored on their ship. 10,000 years of constant warfare. Every technological advance driven by military need. Agriculture developed to feed armies. Medicine created to heal wounded soldiers. Space travel perfected to deliver weapons across vast distances. "Science Officer Krelnex," Vextar called. "Confirm these readings. The psychological profiles cannot be accurate." Krelnex checked the data twice before responding. "The scans are correct, Admiral. These beings have never known a generation without war. Their entire evolutionary path was shaped by constant conflict. They are apex predators that learn to use tools." Vexatar felt fear for the first time in centuries. The Zephyrians had become peaceful through evolution. They fought their last war 5,000 years ago. and had grown beyond the need for violence. Their weapons were defensive tools used only when absolutely necessary. But these humans were different. They carried the genetic memory of millions who died in battle. Every human was a warrior trained from birth to fight and kill and die if needed. They didn't seek war, but they were always ready for it. Admiral, his tactical officer, reported, "The human vessel is maintaining peaceful posture. No weapons charged. They continue broadcasting friendship messages." Vextar looked at the primitive ship on his screen and saw something his science officers had missed. This wasn't just an exploration vessel. It was a probe sent to test alien reactions. If it returned safely, more ships would follow. If it was destroyed, the humans would know they had found enemies. Either way, humanity would learn about the Zephyrian Empire. And based on their psychological profiles, they would eventually come looking for a fight. The Admiral made a decision that would doom his entire civilization. Instead of responding peacefully or simply letting the humans leave, he chose to eliminate what he saw as a future threat. "Charge weapons," he ordered. "Destroy the alien vessel before it can report back to its homeworld." The Zephyrian ship's energy cannons lit up with deadly power. Jake saw the weapons charging on his tactical display and felt his stomach drop. They had come in peace and were about to be murdered for it. "All hands battle stations," he shouted. "Lisa, return fire. Give them everything we have." The Defiance was damaged in the first exchange but not destroyed. Human ships were built tough because humans expected to be shot at. Lisa's missiles punched through the alien energy shields and tore chunks from their beautiful hull, but the fight was hopeless. The alien ship was too advanced and too powerful. Jake ordered retreat while they still could. "Send a message to Earth Command," he told the communications officer as they jumped to faster than light speed. "We have made contact with alien intelligence. They are hostile. Recommend immediate deployment of the Colonial Defense Fleet." Admiral Vextar watched the human ship escape and felt the first tremors of the earthquake he had started. By attacking first, he had given humanity exactly what they needed. An enemy to fight. A reason to bring their full military might into space. The beast was awake now, and it was angry. 3 months after the attack on the USS Defiance, Zephyrian intelligence networks across the galaxy began picking up disturbing reports. Human activity had exploded across dozens of star systems. Ships were being built at an incredible rate. Military bases were appearing on every human colony. The species they had dismissed as primitive was mobilizing for war. Admiral Alex Carter commanded the human response from the bridge of the USS Retribution, a dreadnought so massive it had its own gravity field. The ship was 10 times larger than the Defiance and carried enough firepower to level a planet. It was humanity's answer to alien aggression. Alex had been preparing for this moment his entire life. While other species developed peaceful technologies, humans had spent centuries perfecting the art of war. Every human military officer studied alien contact scenarios and planned for the day when Earth would need to fight for its survival. Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez worked in the Retribution's weapon bays, overseeing systems that would have horrified the Zephyrians if they could see them. Humans had taken every lesson from their violent history and applied it to space warfare. Nuclear warheads that could crack moons. Kinetic projectiles accelerated to near light speed. Chemical weapons designed to eat through alien hull materials. The Colonial Defense Fleet numbered over 3,000 ships, each one built according to human military doctrine. No single point of failure. Redundant systems that could function even when half the ship was destroyed. Crews trained to fight until they died rather than surrender. Admiral Vextar received reports from his scouts and felt growing panic. The human fleet was unlike anything the Zephyrians had encountered. Every ship was a fortress. Every crew member was a warrior. They had discovered a species that treated warfare as its natural state. The Zephyrian High Council called an emergency session. Leaders from across their empire gathered to discuss the human threat. They had ruled the galaxy through superior technology and diplomatic skill. Violence was a tool of last resort used only against the most primitive species. "Perhaps we can negotiate," suggested Counselor Thexavani. "Offer them technology, resources, territory. Every species has a price for peace." "These are not like other species," Vextar replied, projecting the psychological analysis of humanity onto the Council's viewing screens. "They have no concept of peace as we understand it. For them, war is simply politics by other means." The Council studied the data in growing horror. Human history was an unbroken chain of conflict stretching back to their earliest records. They had fought with sticks and stones, then swords and spears, then guns and bombs, then nuclear weapons that could destroy worlds. Each generation found new ways to kill more efficiently. Ambassador Krelnok was chosen to make contact with the human fleet. His ship approached the Retribution under diplomatic protocols, broadcasting messages of peaceful intent in dozens of languages. The humans allowed him to dock but kept weapons trained on his vessel at all times. Alex Carter met the alien diplomat in a conference room lined with armed guards. Humans didn't trust easily, especially after being shot at during first contact. The ambassador was tall and graceful, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. He moved with the fluid grace of a species that had evolved beyond physical violence. "Admiral Carter," Krelnok began, "my empire wishes to apologize for the unfortunate incident with your exploration vessel." Admiral Vextar acted without authorization. "We offer compensation and a treaty of friendship between our peoples." Alex studied the alien with cold eyes. He had read the intelligence reports on Zephyrian society. They were advanced, peaceful, and completely unprepared for the kind of war humanity could wage. "You fired on a peaceful exploration vessel," Alex replied. "You declared war on Earth. Now you want to negotiate because you realize you made a mistake." "War is not necessary," the ambassador insisted. "We can offer you technology that will advance your civilization by thousands of years. Star maps showing safe routes through the galaxy, resources from worlds we do not need, and in return, simply agree to stay within your current territory. The galaxy is vast enough for both our peoples." Alex leaned back in his chair and smiled without warmth. "You scanned our ship. You know what we are, and you think we'll accept being caged in our own small corner of space?" Dr. Stephen Blake joined the meeting carrying data tablets filled with analysis of captured Zephyrian technology. He was Earth's leading expert on alien psychology and had been studying their enemies for months. "Admiral," he said, "I've completed analysis of their defensive systems. They rely entirely on energy shields and automated weapons. Their ships have no armor plating, no redundant systems, no preparation for boarding actions." The ambassador's skin color shifted to a paler shade as he realized the humans had been planning their attack while talking about peace. "You don't understand," Krelnok said desperately. "We are an advanced civilization. Our technology is thousands of years ahead of yours. We have weapons that can destroy solar systems." Alex stood up and walked to the window showing the human fleet stretching to the horizon. "So do we. The difference is we're willing to use them." Jake Morrison, now promoted to admiral after his encounter with the Zephyrians, joined the meeting by video link from his command ship. His face still carried scars from the alien attack, but his eyes burned with controlled fury. "Ambassador," Jake said, "your people made a choice when they fired on the Defiance. You taught us that the galaxy is full of enemies who will shoot first and ask questions later. Now we're going to teach you why that was the worst mistake your species ever made." The ambassador tried one last desperate appeal. "Our civilization has existed for 10,000 years. We have art, culture, scientific achievements beyond your comprehension. War will destroy everything we have built." "Should have thought of that before you tried to destroy us," Alex replied. "Guards, escort the ambassador back to his ship. Give him a message for his High Council." As Krelnok was led away, Alex turned to face the camera, connecting him to the human fleet commanders. "Ladies and gentlemen, the enemy has shown us their hand. They're advanced but soft. They've forgotten how to fight because they've never faced an enemy willing to die to win." Dr. Blake pulled up tactical displays showing Zephyrian fleet movements. "Their ships are faster than ours and their weapons are more powerful. But they have critical weaknesses. No experience with total war. No preparation for massive casualties. No understanding of human psychology." Maria Rodriguez's voice came over the intercom from the engine room. "Admiral, all ships report ready for combat operations. Nuclear arsenals at full capacity. Boarding parties equipped and standing by." Alex Carter looked out at the stars and thought about the message Admiral Vexitar had sent by attacking the Defiance. The Zephyrians had expected humanity to be afraid of their superior technology. Instead, they had awakened something that had been sleeping since humanity left Earth. "Send a message to all human colonies," Alex ordered. "Total war protocols are now in effect. Every ship, every weapon, every soldier is committed to this fight. We're going to show the galaxy what happens when you threaten human survival." The Colonial Defense Fleet began moving towards Zephyrian space in formation. Each ship carried the genetic memory of 10,000 years of human warfare. They were the descendants of warriors who had fought with bronze swords and atomic bombs. Now they would fight among the stars, Admiral Vextar watched the human fleet approaching on his long-range sensors and realized he had made the greatest tactical error in galactic history. He had assumed that superior technology would overcome primitive savagery. He had forgotten the most basic rule of warfare. It's not the size of the ship in the fight, it's the size of the fight in the ship. The beast was fully awake now, and it was coming for them all. The planet-killer fleet approached the human colony of New Montana, like death itself moving through space. 6 massive Zephyrian vessels, each one carrying weapons that could crack a world's crust and boil its oceans. Admiral Vextar had convinced his High Council that humanity could only be stopped through complete extermination. 3 million human colonists lived on New Montana, farming the rich soil and raising their children under alien stars. They had come to the frontier seeking peaceful lives, but they were still human. When the evacuation order came, most refused to leave. Governor Lisa Patterson coordinated the colony's defense from the Planetary Command Center. She had 8 outdated defense satellites and a few hundred civilian ships against weapons that could destroy solar systems. But she also had something the aliens had never encountered: humans who would rather die fighting than live as refugees. All civilians to hardened shelters, she ordered. Military personnel to defensive positions. If they want our world, they'll have to take it over our dead bodies. The first planet-killer beam struck New Montana's northern continent with the force of a directed supernova. The crust cracked, the atmosphere caught fire, and 3 million human lives ended in seconds. But their death screams were broadcast across human space, carrying a message that would doom the Zephyrian Empire. General Kevin Murphy received the transmission on Earth and felt something break inside his chest. He had been preparing humanity's response to alien aggression, but now it was personal. They had crossed the line from warfare to genocide, and humans understood genocide very well. President Nancy Clark called an emergency session of the Colonial Defense Council. The room was filled with military commanders, scientists, and political leaders who had spent their lives preparing for the day when humanity would face extinction. That day had arrived. "Ladies and gentlemen," the president began, "the Zephyrian Empire has begun systematic extermination of human colonies. They have declared a war of species survival. Earth's response is Protocol 7, total retaliation using all available weapons. Protocol 7 was humanity's final contingency plan. If faced with extinction, Earth would take its enemies with it using weapons so terrible that they had never been tested. Every human knew about Protocol 7 but hoped it would never be necessary. Chief Scientist Robert Fox unveiled Project Prometheus in a secured briefing room deep beneath the Pentagon. The project had consumed half of Earth's military budget for the past 20 years and represented the darkest aspects of human ingenuity applied to warfare. Project Prometheus consists of 12 relativistic kinetic weapons, he explained to the assembled commanders. Each one is a tungsten rod accelerated to 90% light speed. When they impact a star, they trigger gravitational collapse and supernova. Admiral Alex Carter studied the technical specifications and felt sick. Humanity had built weapons that could destroy solar systems, killing billions of innocent aliens along with their enemies. But the Zephyrians had started this war of extinction, and humans would finish it. Intelligence Officer Captain Helen Torres had infiltrated a damaged Zephyrian command ship and downloaded their star charts. She knew the location of every Zephyrian colony, every military base, every populated world in their empire. The information would make her the architect of genocide. "Admiral," she reported, "I have target coordinates for 17 Zephyrian core worlds. Total population approximately 60 billion beings. Time to target impact, 72 hours. The human response fleet assembled in space around Earth like a sword pointed at the heart of the galaxy. Every ship carried weapons designed for one purpose: the complete destruction of an entire species." Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the strike force from his flagship, still carrying scars from the first contact that had started this war. But humanity's true advantage wasn't their weapons of mass destruction. Every other species in the galaxy had developed such weapons and then chosen not to use them. Civilized beings understood that some victories cost too much to be worth winning. Humans were different. They had lived under the threat of self-destruction for their entire recorded history. Nuclear warfare, biological weapons, environmental collapse, asteroid impacts, supervolcano eruptions, ice ages, plagues. and a dozen other extinction events had shaped human psychology. They were the only species in the galaxy that was comfortable with mutual annihilation. Commander Bill Jensen piloted the first Prometheus weapon toward the Zephyrian home system. His ship was essentially a guidance system attached to a stellar killer warhead. He would die when the weapon fired, but his death would exterminate an entire solar system. His final transmission reached Earth as he approached the target star. Earth Command. This is Prometheus 1, target acquired. The Zephyrians wanted to teach us about fear. Time to show them what human nightmares look like. The tungsten rod struck the Zephyrian sun at relativistic velocity, punching through solar matter like a bullet through tissue. The star's fusion reaction destabilized, its gravitational field collapsed, and 15 billion years of stellar evolution ended in a few seconds. The Zephyrian homeworld vanished in the supernova blast along with 12 billion innocent aliens. Admiral Vextar watched his species' birth world die from the bridge of an evacuation ship filled with refugees. The humans had done the impossible. They had murdered a star. His civilization's greatest achievements, their art, their culture, their accumulated wisdom of 10,000 years, all gone in moments. He sent an immediate surrender transmission to the human fleet. Earth forces. This is Admiral Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We surrender unconditionally. Please cease hostilities. Our species cannot survive this war. The human response came from Admiral Carter aboard the Retribution. Admiral, your surrender is noted. However, you began this war by attempting to exterminate our species. Earth's policy is now mutual extinction. Your surrender only means you'll die knowing it was your choice. 11 more Prometheus weapons found their targets over the next week. 11 more solar systems died, taking 60 billion Zephyrian lives with them. The few survivors fled to the edges of the galaxy, carrying tales of the monsters from Earth who killed stars for revenge. But the war had changed humanity as well. They had become the thing they fought against, a species willing to commit genocide. The victory celebrations on Earth were muted because everyone understood what they had become. Dr. Stephen Blake presented his analysis of the war's aftermath to President Clark in a classified briefing. Madam President, we have achieved total victory over the Zephyrian Empire. Their military is destroyed, their population reduced to scattered refugees, their technology captured, but the psychological cost to our own species may be permanent. Explain, the President ordered. We have proven to ourselves that humans are capable of exterminating other intelligent species without remorse. The Zephyrians were not evil. They were simply different from us. We killed them because they threatened our survival. But in doing so, we may have lost something essential about our humanity. President Clark looked out the window at Earth's cities, still populated by humans who had celebrated the death of 60 billion aliens. Doctor, humanity lost its innocence 10,000 years ago when we first learned to make weapons. What we proved in this war is not that we're monsters, but that we're survivors. The galaxy is full of species that might threaten us someday. Now they know what happens to species that try. The Terran Empire was born from the ashes of the Zephyrian civilization. Humanity had inherited an empire spanning hundreds of star systems, advanced technology beyond their understanding, and a reputation as the species that killed stars to win wars. Other alien civilizations watched humanity's expansion with growing terror. The humans had done more than win a war. They had proven that they were willing to destroy entire solar systems rather than accept defeat. In a galaxy full of peaceful species, Earth had become the apex predator. Admiral Carter stood on the bridge of his flagship as human colonists began settling former Zephyrian worlds. The war was over, but the killing had changed them all. They had won by becoming the monsters their enemies feared most. The beast was no longer just awake. It was hungry and it owned the galaxy. 6 months after the last Zephyrian star died, Admiral Jake Morrison stood before the Galactic Council in what had once been the chamber of an extinct species. Representatives from 47 different civilizations watched him with barely concealed terror. They had witnessed humanity destroy an empire older than their recorded history, and now they wanted to understand what kind of monsters they were dealing with. The council chamber was a marvel of alien architecture, built by the Etherians 3,000 years ago as a place where civilized species could resolve disputes through diplomacy. Crystalline walls captured and reflected light in patterns that induced calm thoughts. The air itself was designed to promote peace and rational discussion. None of it worked on humans. Jake wore the uniform of the Terran colonial fleet, decorated with ribbons that marked humanity's victories over species the Council had considered invincible. His presence filled the chamber like smoke from a funeral pyre, reminding everyone that their peaceful galaxy had been conquered by apex predators. "Counselors," Jake began, his voice carrying the authority of someone who had personally killed civilizations. "Earth appreciates this opportunity to address the galactic community. We want you to understand our position as we begin the next phase of human expansion." Counselor Velthar of the Etherian Confederation spoke for the assembled aliens. Her species communicated through controlled light patterns that most beings found beautiful. To human eyes, she looked like a living rainbow trying to negotiate with death. "Admiral Morrison," she said, "the Terran Empire has claimed the territory of 17 extinct species in the past 6 months. Your expansion rate exceeds anything in galactic history. The Council wishes to know your intentions toward the remaining civilizations." Jake smiled without warmth. "Our intentions are simple. We're establishing security zones around human space to prevent future attacks like the one that started our war with the Zephyrians. Any species that can threaten human colonies will be disarmed. Any species that refuses to be disarmed will be eliminated." A wave of shocked light patterns rippled through the alien representatives. They had hoped the humans would be satisfied with their conquered territory and settle into peaceful coexistence. Instead, Earth was demanding submission from the entire galaxy. Dr. Stephen Blake joined the Council session by holographic projection from his research facility on captured Zephyrian technology. He had spent months analyzing the psychological profiles of every major species in the galaxy, and his findings had shaped human expansion policy. "Counselors," Blake said, "my studies have revealed a consistent pattern among galactic civilizations. Every advanced species achieves interstellar travel by evolving beyond warfare. You create peaceful societies, develop non-violent technologies, and establish diplomatic solutions to conflicts. This makes you incredibly vulnerable to any species that has not abandoned violence." Counselor Zethkari of the Machine Worlds processed this information through quantum computers that could predict social outcomes with perfect accuracy. His species had merged with artificial intelligence millennia ago and approached problems through pure logic. "Dr. Blake," the machine being said, "your analysis suggests that peaceful evolution is a weakness rather than advancement. This contradicts every philosophical framework developed by intelligent species. That's because every other species assumed that intelligence naturally leads to peace." Blake replied. "Humans are proof that assumption is wrong. We became intelligent because we needed better ways to kill our enemies. Every human advancement was driven by military necessity." Captain Helen Torres presented the Council with intelligence data that made their worst fears seem optimistic. She had mapped every military installation, defensive system, and weapons depot in the galaxy. The results showed that most civilizations had been defenseless for thousands of years. "Counselors," Helen said, "combined military strength of all non-human species in this region totals approximately 8,000 combat vessels. The Terran colonial fleet currently operates 12,000 ships, with more being built every day. Your combined forces cannot stop human expansion even if you unite against us." The Council dissolved into chaos as representatives realized they were being informed of their conquest rather than negotiating to prevent it. Light-based beings flashed panic patterns. Energy creatures fluctuated between dimensions. Machine intelligences calculated millions of scenarios and found no path to victory. Admiral Alex Carter materialized in the chamber as a hologram transmitted from the dreadnought Retribution, now flagship of humanity's galactic fleet. His presence silenced the panicking aliens like a predator entering a room full of prey. "The Terran Empire offers the following terms," Alex announced. "Submit to human authority and retain autonomy over your internal affairs. Attempt resistance and be classified as hostile forces requiring elimination. The choice is yours, but the deadline is 30 standard days." Counselor Velthar tried one final appeal to whatever mercy might exist in human psychology. "Admiral Carter, surely your species understands that diversity of thought and culture benefits all intelligent life. The galaxy has achieved unprecedented peace through cooperation between different forms of consciousness." "The galaxy achieved peace because everyone was too weak to fight wars," Alex replied. "Now there's a species in the galaxy that never forgot how to fight. The age of peace is over. The age of human dominance has begun. Commander Sarah Mitchell, the youngest officer ever promoted to admiral, joined the conference from her command ship at the edge of Council space. She represented the new generation of humans who had been born into war and raised on victory against alien enemies. "Counselors," Sarah said, "I want you to understand something about human nature. We didn't ask to become the monsters of the galaxy, but when the Zephyrians threatened our survival, we discovered what we truly are. We're not just another intelligent species. We're evolution's answer to the question of what happens when intelligence meets unlimited violence." The holographic displays around the chamber showed human fleets moving toward alien systems across the galaxy. 12 different species were receiving ultimatums demanding surrender. Ancient civilizations that had existed since before Earth formed were being given 30 days to submit to creatures they considered primitive barbarians. But the humans were no longer primitive. They had absorbed Zephyrian technology, Etherian science, and machine world computational systems. They combined alien advancement with human tactical thinking to create weapons and strategies that terrified beings who had thought themselves beyond the reach of violence. General Kevin Murphy reported fleet movements from his headquarters on conquered Zephyria Prime. "Council members, human expansion will continue until we control every world capable of supporting life. We're not doing this because we want to rule the galaxy. We're doing it because we've learned that any species with the capability to threaten human existence eventually will threaten human existence." The council session ended with most alien representatives fleeing to their home worlds to prepare for humanity's arrival. A few species attempted to organize military resistance, but their efforts were crushed within weeks. The humans had studied every alien weakness and exploited them with ruthless efficiency. 3 years later, Admiral Morrison walked through the ruins of the last independent alien city in the galaxy. The Kethemori had been the final holdouts, refusing surrender until their planet was cracking under human bombardment. Now their survivors worked in human labor camps, their civilization reduced to a historical footnote. Dr. Blake found him standing among the rubble of an alien library that had contained 10 million years of accumulated knowledge. The books were ash now, destroyed by weapons that turned matter into energy. "Any regrets, Admiral?" Blake asked. Jake looked up at the human flag flying over the ruins of another extinct civilization. "The Zephyrians made their choice when they fired on the Defiance. Every species that fought us made their choice when they chose resistance over submission. We gave them all the same option: live under human rule or don't live at all. And the species that surrendered? They're useful. The Etherians provide scientific research. The machine worlds handle computational tasks. The others serve whatever function benefits humanity. They exist because they make us stronger." Blake walked among the alien ruins and thought about what humanity had become. They had conquered the galaxy not through superior technology or greater intelligence, but through their willingness to do whatever it took to win. Other species drew lines they wouldn't cross. Humans crossed every line and drew new ones behind them. The Terran Empire now controlled 47 star systems and over 300 billion alien subjects. Human colonies were being established on worlds that had never known the presence of predators. Human children were being raised on planets where they were taught that other intelligent species existed to serve them. Admiral Sarah Mitchell commanded the exploration fleets pushing toward the galactic core where ancient civilizations waited in blissful ignorance of humanity's approach. Her ships carried weapons that could crack planets and crews that had been born into a universe where humans ruled by right of conquest. The first major battle happened at Kepler Station, a Zephyrian mining outpost built into an asteroid field. The station processed rare minerals used in their advanced technology and was defended by their most powerful fleet. Admiral Vextar commanded 30 ships, armed with plasma cannons that could vaporize mountains and protected by shields that had never been penetrated by enemy fire. The human fleet approached like a pack of wolves stalking prey. Admiral Alex Carter divided his forces into 3 attack groups, each one designed to exploit different weaknesses in alien tactics. The Zephyrians had studied human technology and prepared countermeasures for long-range missile attacks and nuclear weapons. They had not prepared for what humanity actually planned to do. Colonel Ryan Walsh commanded the first attack wave from his assault carrier USS Hammer. His ship looked like a flying brick compared to the graceful alien vessels, but It was built for one purpose: getting close enough to hurt the enemy. The hammer carried no long-range weapons, no energy shields, no advanced defenses. It was simply armor, engines, and the will to ram through anything in its path. Lieutenant Patricia Stone worked in the hammer's boarding pod bay, checking equipment one final time. She was a demolitions expert who had volunteered for the most dangerous job in the human arsenal: close combat with aliens who had technology beyond Earth's understanding. Her team carried chemical explosives, nuclear charges, and weapons designed to function in any environment. The Zephyrians opened fire when the human fleet reached maximum range. Plasma beams lanced across space, striking human ships and overloading their primitive shields. 3 destroyers exploded in the first minutes of battle. Admiral Vextar smiled as he watched the enemy fleet take devastating losses. But the humans kept coming. Human doctrine had been shaped by centuries of warfare against superior enemies. They had learned to accept massive casualties if it accomplished the mission. Every human ship was expendable if its destruction hurt the enemy. Every human life was acceptable payment for victory. The hammer took 17 direct hits as it charged through the alien defensive line. Its armor melted, its engines failed, its crew died at their stations. But Colonel Walsh kept the ship moving forward using emergency thrusters and pure determination. He had orders to reach the alien flagship, and he would complete his mission, even if it killed him. Admiral Vextar watched in horror as the primitive human ship rammed through his energy, shields like they were made of paper. The hammer's hull was burning. Its weapons were destroyed, but it still moved toward his flagship with unstoppable momentum. "All ships concentrate fire on that vessel," he ordered. "Destroy it before it reaches us." 20 Zephyrian ships focused their plasma cannons on the hammer. The human ship vanished in a ball of superheated energy that should have vaporized every atom. But when the light faded, pieces of the hammer were still moving forward, carried by momentum and the dying will of its crew. Colonel Walsh's final transmission reached the human fleet as his ship disintegrated around him. Ramming speed achieved.
"Shields are down.
Send in the boarding parties." The hammer's sacrifice had accomplished its mission. The alien energy shields were disrupted by the impact, leaving their ships vulnerable to the second wave of human attack. Patricia Stone's boarding pods launched from a dozen different ships, targeting the now defenseless Zephyrian vessels. The pods were basically nuclear-powered bullets designed to punch through alien hull plating and deliver human soldiers directly into enemy ships. Most of the pods were destroyed by defensive fire, but enough survived to deliver their deadly cargo. Patricia's pod crashed through the hull of the Zephyrian flagship like a meteor. She and her team emerged into corridors filled with strange gravity fields and air that burned human lungs. The aliens had never designed their ships to resist boarding parties because no civilized species fought wars by sending soldiers to kill enemies face to face. The Zephyrian crew tried to repel the humans using energy weapons that could disintegrate matter. But human soldiers wore armor designed to deflect energy beams and carried weapons that fired solid projectiles. Bullets punched through alien flesh just as efficiently as they had killed humans for centuries. Patricia fought her way toward the ship's reactor core, leaving a trail of alien bodies behind her. Her mission was simple: plant nuclear charges and destroy the flagship from within. The Zephyrians had superior technology, but they had no experience with the kind of close-quarters combat that humans had perfected in 10,000 years of warfare. Admiral Vextar retreated to his command center as human. Soldiers swept through his ship like a virus. His crew was trained for peaceful exploration and scientific research. They had no idea how to fight enemies who seemed to enjoy violence. "Send a surrender signal," he ordered his communications officer. "Perhaps we can negotiate." The human response came from Patricia Stone as she reached the reactor core. "Admiral, this is Lieutenant Stone of the Earth Colonial Marines. Your surrender is noted and rejected. Earth remembers every species that tried to destroy us, and we remember what happened to them." She began arming the nuclear charges while fighting off desperate alien defenders. Her team died around her, killed by energy weapons and alien security systems. But humans had learned long ago that individual lives meant nothing if the mission succeeded. Patricia's final message was broadcast to both fleets as the nuclear charges reached critical mass. "Tell Earth we kept faith with the warrior code. Tell the aliens what happens when you mess with apex predators." The flagship's reactor exploded, taking half the Zephyrian fleet with it in a chain reaction that lit up the asteroid field like a new star. The remaining alien ships retreated in panic, their crews traumatized by their first encounter with human warfare. Admiral Alex Carter watched the battle's end from his command ship and felt no satisfaction in victory. The humans had won, but at terrible cost. 2/3 of his fleet was destroyed, thousands of his people were dead, and the enemy was still out there with weapons that could destroy planets. But he had learned something important about their alien enemies. The Zephyrians were advanced but fragile. They could not accept the kind of losses that humans considered normal. They had never faced an enemy willing to die just to hurt them. Dr. Stephen Blake analyzed the battle data and confirmed what every human commander suspected. Admiral, their psychology profiles indicate massive trauma response to casualties. They're not prepared for wars of attrition. If we can force them into prolonged combat, they'll break before we do. The Zephyrian survivors limped back to their home territory, carrying reports that terrified their high command. The humans fought like demons, accepting death as casually as breathing. They had turned their ships into weapons and their soldiers into guided missiles. Worst of all, they seemed to be enjoying the violence. Admiral Vextar addressed the Zephyrian High Council with shaking hands and haunted eyes. Council members, we are not fighting a military force. We are fighting an entire species that has evolved to see warfare as entertainment. They do not seek to minimize casualties, they seek to maximize damage regardless of cost. Surely they can be reasoned with, Councillor Thexavani insisted. Every intelligent species values survival above all else. These creatures value victory above survival, Vextar replied. They are willing to die if it means their enemies die first. We cannot defeat an enemy that welcomes death. The High Council made a decision that would seal their fate. If they could not defeat humanity in conventional war, they would use weapons of mass destruction. Planet-killer devices that could crack worlds and exterminate entire species. They had forgotten the most important lesson in galactic history. When you threaten a species with extinction, you had better make sure you can actually accomplish it, because if you fail, you have given them permission to do the same thing to you. The war was about to become something that would horrify civilized beings across the galaxy. 2 species with planet-killing weapons and only one rule. The enemy must die completely.